It is a very, very special show today, ladies and gentlemen. We have Arizona High School State legend Sam Duane Jr. joining us on today's show. I'm not going to waste any more of your time. It's the AZ Wildcats podcast. In 30 seconds after this intro, don't you go anywhere.
Welcome on into the AZ Wildcats podcast. I'm your host, Damon Fairall. He is Kevin Thomas. We are in PHNX HQ2 in lovely downtown Phoenix on this beautiful Friday morning. Hope everybody's week has gone well. Hope everybody's Friday is happy and you're celebrating the holiday. Every Friday is a holiday, right, Kevin?
Every Friday is indeed a holiday, Damon. We love celebrating TGIF. You know what I'm saying, Damon?
Yep.
First Friday today as well. So I'm excited for all of this.
You know who always starts it off a good Friday, Kevin, by the way, and I'm just going to shout her out real quick. DJ, our security guard in our building.
So true.
Every time it's Friday, happy Friday. Does it get any better than that? I mean, it puts a smile on your face every single time.
Hey, DJ even does that on a Monday. Like, I'll walk in and she'll be like, happy Monday. And I'll be like,
it's Mondays and Fridays.
I'll be like, happy Monday indeed. Because she just knows you need that boost on a Monday. And then you really need that pick me up on a Friday to get you through the last day of the week.
Yes.
So,
shout out to DJ. It even warms my heart a little bit, Kevin, when she says happy Friday, even though I have work on Saturday and Sunday. Where it's like it's not a happy Friday at all. This is basically a Wednesday, but it still puts a smile on my face, right? Like it still just makes you feel better about the situation. And yeah, shout out everybody. Happy Friday. If you're in this chat, like this video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. But we are pumped up to be talking to Koa Peat's high school coach today, Kevin, Sam Duane Jr., 8-time state champion, 4 straight titles, 2 separate times, Kevin. Pretty remarkable stuff. Did it once at Corona del Sol, which was a powerhouse when he was coaching it back in the day. Did it once at Perry High School as well. And yeah, Kevin, we spoke with him. We're gonna get to that interview here shortly, but we talked to him about Koa Peat, and we wanted to dive more into Koa Peat because I think that as big of a deal as Koa Peat's commitment was, I feel like now with just how the transfer portal was directly after that, Kevin, how Arizona's season ended kind of directly after that commitment happened, right? That same day. It somewhat went under the radar of just how important I think that this commitment is to this program. And yeah, like Koa Peat he's a generational in-state player. That's a fact. He's one of those guys that, Arizona has gotten in the past and like a Mike Bibby and whatnot, but continues the trend of getting those players and them being Arizona Wildcats. And yeah, just an overall, I think, it's very influential, this move on Arizona's season next year, obviously, but also the players that it could bring in, moving forward here, Kevin.
Yeah, it's a huge, huge commitment for the University of Arizona. And you're right, it did kind of maybe not go under the radar, but I do think it went a little underappreciated from that. Everyone knew about it, but I don't think everyone really had the mental space to devote to Koa Peat in that moment. It was kind of the morning that you spent devoting to Koa Peat.
Definitely.
And then, once that clock hit, 2:00, you started really locking in on that basketball game, Damon, because it was the biggest game of Arizona's season that day. And Damon, I think that this commitment is massive for the program. I think a lot of people in the fan base had, I wouldn't say concerns, but had yet to be seen what type of high school recruiting Tommy Lloyd could do. I mean, you and I, we both had faith that Tommy Lloyd is still a good recruiter, and that it was only a matter of time before you land a guy the quality of Koa Peat. But now he has done just that, and I think that is a huge thing to indicate the health of the program as a whole. Koa Peat had some of the most impressive programs in the country chasing after him.
Yeah,
right. I mean, this is a top 10 ESPN 100 player. This is a McDonald's All-American, 3-time Gatorade Player of the Year. Like, he is a special player. And you and I are going to talk a little bit about Koa Peat today, and I guess we should start with they don't make them like Koa Peat. Like they don't physically create people like Koa Peat. He is a massive human.
Well, that's a player
for his age as well.
You can't get that player on in the transfer portal market.
Correct.
I think that's the biggest thing with a player like Koa Peat.
They don't play more than 1 year in college.
No, they don't. And you know, it's that athletic specimen type that, you know, we've seen before in the Aaron Gordons of the world, right? The Stanley Johnsons of the world, but they come in and they're built like they're ready for the NBA, right? And, you know, I know Stanley Johnson had a somewhat disappointing NBA career. Aaron Gordon's obviously had a very good career, but you know, it's that type of player where it's plug and play. You feel like they're going to step on the court. They're going to be one of the better players on the court automatically, and they're going to contribute to winning at a high level. And I think Koa Peat is exactly that guy. But it's just like there's, you know, 1,500 players in this transfer portal right now, Kevin, and there's not one Koa Peat. There's
1,700.
Yeah.
Increase. You can go across the country. Forget the transfer portal.
I thought it was 1,600 plus, but I just was speaking in generalities.
Oh no, you're good. I was just, you know how it is. Every minute somebody enters the portal. It's like the Sarah McLachlan commercial. You know, for just 10 cents a day, you can help this 3-star find a new home. You know what I mean?
This is very true, Kevin. But yes, it's just he's a special player, and you know, obviously Final Four coming up. Arizona, it's been a long time. Can Koa Peat be that guy, Kevin? Do you believe in Koa Peat in next year's roster, but him particularly being one of the key cogs of that roster? I mean, this guy is a winner. Everywhere he goes, he wins, right? 4 straight state titles in his high school career. You know, played through a broken hand, which we're going to get into when we talk to Coach Sam Duane Jr. later in segment 2 here. But it's just this is a guy who he would rather risk injuring himself further than risk losing a basketball game. That's who he is, and it's all about winning for Koa Peat. And I feel like that he fits that Tommy Lloyd mold of a person that you want in this program, but with the athletic traits and abilities that you typically don't find in that caliber of player.
He is a rare mix, right? He is a rare mix of has his head on straight, cares about winning, cares about personal development, cares about the development of his teammates. Also wants to win so damn bad.
Yeah.
I mean, like I was in the building for the state championship game, and he was fighting through a lot of pain. You could tell. His coach alluded to that during the interview that we're going to get to in the second segment. But just the level of pain, probably stress that Koa Peat had to go through to get to where he wanted to be for the 4-peat, make history.
Yeah.
Kind of tie his brother as well, who had a 4-peat that before he got there as well. And Damon, I think Koa Peat is an incredibly special player. When you ask me, what do I think, how far I think he can take Arizona, that's a very tough question, right? And I don't necessarily want to put those expectations on Koa Peat, mainly because you don't see freshmen carry teams to a Final Four, nonetheless a national title, very often. I believe, and someone in the chat, please correct me if I'm wrong. I would love to be corrected on this specifically, because I was trying to go back today and try to figure out what is the most recent freshman to really lead their team to a Final Four. Is it Anthony Davis? Like, do you have to go all the way back to 2012? You might have to go back to 2012 in Kentucky on that Anthony Davis team. And if that's the case, like, there's just not many examples in recent history, especially since the transfer portal is opened.
What about that Duke team? Was that after that, I believe? The Jahlil Okafor, Justice Winslow, Grayson Allen team, where those guys were all freshmen? Tyus Jones.
2015?
Yeah.
That might be the most recent.
That was a very freshman-led team. But they were able to beat that Wisconsin team that had Sam Decker and Frank Kaminsky and broke all of our hearts, but had a ton of experience. So I feel like that might be the most recent one, but points still standing. That's a decade ago. Yeah.
And after that, it's Villanova, North Carolina, Villanova, Virginia, Baylor, Kansas, UConn. Yeah. None of those teams truly led by freshmen, and especially during the transfer portal, you have to believe that older players, more experienced players, are going to continue to be the feature in these late tournament, games, Damon. So, in the Koa Peat context, I don't necessarily expect Koa Peat to carry Arizona through to their next Final Four. But if Koa Peat is one of the best players in the country next season, and if Koa Peat is the best freshman in the country next season, or one of the best freshmen in the country next season, it will go a long way towards Arizona finally getting past the Sweet 16. I know I can say that much. You know what I mean? Especially if you add a Braden Burries to that mix. And if Carter Bryant returns, now you are talking about a team kind of like that 2015 Duke team with a couple of elite young players that, have some supplementary talent around them that could carry you through. Continue,
or
Dan.
this year's Duke team.
Correct. No, very true. Very true. Results yet to be determined, but that's a good pull as well. This year's Duke team could buck that trend and make it, but the most recent freshman-led team to win a natty.
I wasn't even saying that. I'm just saying, like, matching up with a team like this year's Duke team athletically, because you're bringing in those blue chip, high caliber recruits that, maybe that this team necessarily didn't have. And while this team was a lot of fun, and I'll be honest, Kevin, this is one of my favorite Arizona basketball teams I've had, the pleasure of watching throughout the course of the season. I know we were especially locked in because of what we do, but I did find this group extremely likable and just played fun basketball, like a basketball that I enjoyed watching. And yeah, I think based off of the early expectations too, that made it more fun for me, where they somewhat shocked me. But at the end of the day, it was guys like, and I'm not taking digs at these guys because they're great basketball players that could really help programs. But it's guys like, KJ Lewis, who are, borderline top 100 recruits that are top 3 minutes getters on the team. Jaden Bradley, he was a 5-star recruit out of high school, but once he transferred from Alabama, he was averaging like 6 points per game his freshman year. He was highly touted as a transfer prospect, but it wasn't like this guy's going to change your program. And you had to take a chance. Same with like a Caleb Love, right? Like, people were extremely low on Caleb Love. We hear all the negativity that's surrounded Caleb Love throughout this season, no matter how unfair it was. But when you line up with a Carter Bryant, if, God willing, Koa Peat, Braden Burries, right? Like, those are the caliber of players that the teams like this year's Duke team have, where they're just lined up with 5 stars up and down their roster. And yeah, I mean, I don't think Koa Peat would have been we wouldn't have been, if Koa Peat was matching up against Cooper Flagg. Yeah, is Cooper Flagg probably a better basketball player than Koa Peat? Absolutely. But would it look like just an absolute mismatch of abilities? I don't think it would. I think he would defend him better than anyone on this current Arizona team could have defended him, right? So that's where like, I feel like he raises that ceiling for Arizona, and maybe it doesn't really raise the floor all that much. Like, maybe the Sweet 16 or an early loss is still up there in the cards if you run into the wrong team. But
it always is.
It is. But I do think that this having players the caliber of Koa Peat and what Koa Peat also brings from a notoriety perspective of, like, could he help land Braden Burries? Getting guys like that is what raises your ceiling of your team and should fill Arizona fans with a lot of confidence going into next season.
It should. And just continuing the Koa Peat expectations conversation, I don't expect him, like I said, I don't expect him to carry Arizona, be the sole reason Arizona is in like a Final Four. But I honestly like the caliber of player he is, and this is kind of what I want to speak to. When you look at Cooper Flagg, obviously he is incredibly skilled. Mm-hmm. Maybe the most skilled player in the country, right? But what allows Cooper Flagg to utilize that skill at the college level and look so good? He is incredibly physical, and his frame fits the physicality.
Oh, yeah.
Right? He can take the bumps, he can give the bumps, and use his athleticism to get to the rim at will, right? A lot of freshmen, and this is true of also Carter Bryant to an extent, right? A lot of freshmen come into the college ranks and have to fill out yet to still. They're not fully, obviously they're not fully developed at all, but they're not fully strong enough to play at the college level, right? You have to get in that strength and conditioning program over the summer, do what you got to do. Koa Peat could play college basketball tomorrow.
Yeah.
And be fine. And like
with a broken hand.
And not yeah, exactly. And not look like a freshman. Right? He would probably look like a sophomore or junior, at least physically. That's what I'm talking about. Physicality wise, Koa Peat's ready to go in the Big 12 tomorrow. And I think that's one of the biggest things that gives me confidence that Koa Peat will be a real contributor day one. Yeah. As Brian Kensley says in the chat, that Koa Peat's going to contribute right away. I do agree. Like, I think Koa Peat is going to look like the best or one of the best players on the team day one. But it's a question of how far can that take you when he's only a freshman, and he's still going to have a lot to learn. A lot of things are going to be thrown at him that he has yet to ever be seen. Yeah. Even regardless of how high of a level he has played, whether it's USA, whether it's AAU, whether it's the highest level of Arizona State basketball, high school level stuff. Koa Peat's going to easily compete at the college level. It's about how much will he produce next season from a statistical standpoint. And that has yet to be seen. But I have no question that he's going to look awesome day one. And that ceiling is, I think the ceiling is, Damon, still that player that actually can carry you to the Final Four. Yeah. But I just don't want to put those expectations out there on him so early.
Yeah, I don't think that that's what we're trying to do.
His ceiling is that.
Yes.
His ceiling is exactly that.
You mentioned statistically, it's kind of up in the air. I would say that just the fact that he plays the front court for a Tommy Lloyd team, I don't have any worries in the world about his statistics. Like he's gonna average like 18 points per game with the amount of post touches that Tommy likes to get his guys. And I know this team was a little bit different than that, but I think that next year with Krivos getting more of a share of the center role, we're probably going to get back to a little bit more of those post touches type of half court offense, right? And Koa Peat will eat off of that, especially against maybe some of the lower competition, like when he plays Arizona State. Kevin,
Damon Dog.
We spoke with Sam Duane Jr., Koa Peat's coach for his 4 years across high school. We're going to get to that here in a second. First, I do want to shout out everybody here in the chat. We do have a crew here today. We got Brian, Kobe, W, Espo, of course, Electron Vibes.
Chase, we're going to get to that later. We're definitely going to get to this later.
Our resident UNC guy, Chase, is here in the chat, living it up. And Nacho Libre, Erica, of course. Show doesn't start till Erica gets here. Everyone knows that. But yes, shout out everybody here in the chat. Leave a like on this video if you are here watching the show. I do want to shout out, Kevin, my guy Chris, who I met this morning at a coffee shop.
Shout out.
Chris, Dolphins fan, Heat fan, Arizona Wildcat alumnus.
That's 3 for 3.
It's basically your boy over here, and yeah,
David met his little twin.
It was cool talking to Chris this morning. Just ran into him at the shop, and yeah, just he came across some of our YouTube content, Kevin, and recognized me and just wanted to say what's up. And I just want to say that those interactions are very, very cool for me and Kevin. We love that stuff. So shout out Chris, shout out all of you guys for being here. Like this video. And yeah, we're going to talk to Sam Duane Jr. right after the break here on the AZ Wildcats podcast.
Damon, Koa Peat is likely to be making some good money playing for the University of Arizona. And if he's a smart, savvy guy, he's going to be spending some of that money on a new home with our friends over at Carol Royse Team. The Carol Royse Team, some of the best home lenders and home buyers, sellers in the entire game. Very, very nice people. They came into our office educating us on the importance of owning your own home, how impactful that can be, not only for you, but the future generations of you and your family as well.
Yeah.
It can really set you up for huge success in life as well. So check out our friends over at Carol Royse Team. And buying a home sounds like a large endeavor, Damon, and it is a large endeavor. It's a huge decision. So you should go with someone who has guarantees. Carol Royse will give you written guarantees. They guarantee to sell your home for 100% of market value, or they'll pay you the difference, and that is a guarantee. If you're considering a cash offer, don't settle for one. Get up to 6 of the best offers with at least 100% of the market value, or Carol will pay the difference as well. And if you're worried about the finances, don't be. Carol Royse has some of the best lenders available to you in the entire game. So call Carol Royse today. Write this number down at 480-776-5231, or visit Carol Royse online at carolroyseteam.com. Tell them PHNX sent you. That's carolroyseteam.com. Terms and conditions do apply.
Kevin, I'm bummed I didn't get to meet Carol Royse and her team when they came in the office.
Great energy. I was crazy good energy.
I believe I was out of town, or maybe I was on a work trip or something. But
I think you were like on a work trip. I do.
Yeah,
think
but I missed it, and just the aura of the Carol Royse team, unmatched. Also, branded bills, our favorite hats here at PHNX, the most comfortable hats in the business. Whether you need a snapback, trucker, fitted, beanie, t-shirt, even coming out with some new products that you're gonna want to keep your mind on and keep your eye on, because they are absolutely phenomenal. We went out to their facility out in Mesa, Arizona. Of course, they are a local company, support local. But yes, we went out to they showed us some of their new products. We went to their facility. Great team, very like-minded to the people here at PHNX. Just, you could tell that they love what they do, and it shows in their products, Kevin, because it's just the absolute premium headwear that you won't find anywhere else. And if you use code PHNX, you're going to get 20% off that order. Arizona fans, go check out the campus collection that they have down at the campus bookstore in Tucson. Kevin checked it out.
Exclusive
some pretty cool looking hats in there. And yeah, we absolutely love it. I'm going to try to get down to Tucson soon, and I'm going to make a stop at the bookstore specifically to go see if I can get myself that Duel in the Desert hat, Kevin, that you sent me the picture of quite a while back now. But we love our friends at Branded Bills. Go to brandedbills.com, use code PHNX for 20% off your first order. Well, the people have waited long enough. We sat down with Koa Peat's high school coach, a guy that has known him for a very long time, a guy that has known the Peat family for even longer, right? And has been around Koa way long before he coached him. I think that is probably the best to speak on, other outside of Koa's own family about what kind of player he is, what kind of person he is. And without further ado, why don't we listen here to Coach Sam Duane Jr. We are fired up to be joined by Coach Sam Duane Jr., formerly of Perry, Corona del Sol, legend of the Valley here, and of course, Koa Peat's coach at Perry High School. And Coach, it's great to have you here on this Friday morning. How are things?
Everything's going good. I appreciate you having me on. Thank you.
Yeah, I want to say congrats on your retirement, first and foremost, and just a storied career as well. But obviously, you've coached a ton of great players, lots of talent in your years here coaching Arizona high school basketball. And this one was this commitment felt like it almost had like maybe the most notoriety behind it out of a lot of these players. So just kind of what were your thoughts on Koa's decision to come to Arizona?
It did have a lot of attention to it, but I think that's because Koa is such a high character and such a great player. And I think Koa really took his time to really make the best decision that was best for him, first and foremost for him and his family, but first and foremost, the best place for him. And he went through it and he really handled it like a pro. Taking his time, everybody talking to him, all the media attention. When are you gonna commit? When are you gonna commit? He handled it very, very well, just like a pro.
And Coach, you mentioned, you alluded to how he handled his recruitment. You had a front row seat to all of that process. Can you kind of talk to us about how Koa Peat was going through that process, how some of the recruiters were during that process? How intense was the recruitment of Koa Peat?
Intensity off the charts. Koa, like I said, handled it like a pro with maturity. The thing that impressed me as we went through this whole process was he handled the meetings, he handled the visits, he handled all the coaches coming through the gym, but he never put himself above his teammates. And when we stepped on the floor, he was locked in to win a championship and to be the best that he could be. And I don't think a lot of kids can do that. He really did a great job of separating the recruiting process to not letting it affect his performance on the floor and not letting it affect his performance in the classroom, on campus, and as a teammate. But it was intense. And TJ Benson and Tommy did a phenomenal job recruiting him, as all the staffs did. But I think Cole really felt at ease, and when he was ready for his decision, I supported it, and I thought it was a great decision because he had really invested in it.
Yeah, you've obviously coached a couple players that have had ties to Arizona or ended up going to Arizona, Alex Barcelo, as well as Dylan Anderson. So I feel like you've been around kind of the Arizona Wildcats fan base, the vibes and whatnot. But did you always feel like Koa's desire was to stay somewhere local, whether that was here in the Valley at ASU or going to Arizona? Did you get the vibe that was kind of his preference?
I think deep down, but Cole also was willing to leave for the best place for him. And his older brothers all left Arizona. His other one, Keona's at ASU playing football, but Andres, Todd, and Cassius all left Arizona. He was looking for the best fit first. If it happened to be in his own backyard and that was something deep down, then that was good. But I think it all worked out that the fan base at Arizona is crazy. He's going to love it, and you're going to love him. But I think it all worked out, and ended up being the best fit, and it ended up being local.
Coach, you have coached some of the greatest players in the state's history. You are the only coach, I'm sure you know this, but for our viewers that aren't familiar, you're the only coach in the history of the state to have 2 4-peats at the highest division offered. Unbelievable feat. But that means that you can rank some players as well. You can go back through history and find out who really was the most special. So where does Koa Peat's talent land on that list? Now, I'm obviously not asking you to, go 1 through 5 unless you want to. But can you just kind of speak to how special of a talent he is in comparison to some of the other special talents you've coached in your history?
I never compare my guys. I love them all, and I'm not going. He ranks as one of the top. I've been blessed to have phenomenal players like at Corona, Barcelo, Marvin Bagley, Saban Lee, Dane Kuiper that went to New Mexico. At Corona, at Perry, I've had Jalen Williams, who's just phenomenal player. Cody Williams. DeAndre Harrison this year, and Koa. And I would say in the Arizona ranks, Koa is probably on the Mount Rushmore with guys, not just because of his physical talent, which is off the charts. His IQ is off the charts. His character is off the charts, and his willingness to win. I think those things separate him.
Coach, I wanted to you speak to his competitiveness and his willing to win. That broken hand that he played through in the playoffs this season. First, can you speak to us about, what it was like watching him play through that broken hand and how special that is, but also just how much of a competitor he must be to want to win that bad?
Yeah, supreme competitor. That whole thing was a wave of emotions from a fluke accident in practice that probably I tell people I could win the lottery before that ever got hit like that again. No collision, no nothing, just a hit from an elbow. From him, though, the emotion of him being told he's done, to sitting in our office trying to go through that process, to then him getting antsy watching practice and then getting back to the doctor and I laugh. His dad laughs. His dad called me and to tell me he was clear, and he was like, Coach, I had a feeling I was going to have to make this call to tell you that he's playing because that's how determined he was. And we kind of held him off in the semifinal. We didn't start him, and he was next to me, and we were doing okay. And I turned to him, and he goes, Coach, I want to play. I'm good. I'm ready. So I was like, let's go. And you couldn't tell he had a broken hand. Like his first play, he scores. And then in the semi, he played that out. He was sore the next day. We shut him down, no contact. All through that process, no contact. He was doing things. And then no contact up to the championship game. And he played in pain. You guys don't realize the pain that kid played in and the things he had to do just to get ready to play, the treatments and things, just to get ready to play in that game. In his championship game, he was phenomenal. You would never know he had a broken hand. He blocked a shot right off the bat with that hand, scored. He dunked really hard with that hand. And I think he felt it the next morning. But that's a true test to Koa's loyalty, his commitment to winning. There's no one, you guys are going to find out, a kid, he's special because he wants to win, and he's a loyal kid.
Yeah, I mean, this is obviously speculation on my part, but he went out and did shoot around at the McDonald's All-American game. Had he had the surgery probably prior to that, there's a chance he could have played in the game, but ultimately decided he'd rather play with a broken hand, I presume, in the state championship game rather than playing in the McDonald's All-American game and being full go.
Absolutely. His goal was to win 4. Little selfishness because his brother Cassius won 4 with us at Corona, and he wanted to get that, but he didn't want to end his high school career on the bench, and he did not want to have any regrets. And when he told me I want no regrets, I was all in with him. He played. If thing got hurt a little bit more, his surgery would have been different. So he played with some risks, but he didn't want to have regrets, and that's just a testament to his character and, again, his loyalty. But he wanted to play in that game, and there was nothing going to stop him.
Yeah, and Coach, you spoke to just how much pain he played through, and trust me, like if fans were paying attention at the state championship game, you saw how much pain he was in. He was the last player out of the locker room at halftime, clearly grimacing, holding his hand, coming out to play. I think he checked out once. Maybe, I mean, you were checking him in and out. You would know better than me. But I think he checked out once, and when he came out, it was like him favoring his hand. And yeah, and you spoke to this as well. he kind of played like a crazy man, even with the broken hand checking dudes, dunking, blocking shots. And that kind of, to me, it gave me everything I needed to see to be like, I need this guy in an Arizona Wildcat uniform tomorrow, not today, tomorrow. I needed that right now. Coach, you spoke kind of to his mentality on the court and just kind of, the competitor that he is. But what kind of person is Koa Peat? What kind of person is Arizona getting with this, huge commitment?
Oh man, you got an hour? He's character is off the charts. And every coach is going to tell you, hey, my player is this, and this. But if you walk on our campus and you go into administration, our principal loves him, our athletic director loves him, the people that work in the front office love him. He stops in and says hi to them every day. His teachers are at games supporting him. They love him. On campus, he's just a tremendous role model. He has a lot of visibility on campus. He handles students. Even like I have freshman PE classes, and they're like, "Can we get Koa's autograph?" Things like that. He handles that really, really well. He fits in. He's a tremendous student. He never puts himself above anybody else. If you ever come to a home game, he stays after on the floor and signs autographs, takes pictures with little kids. Here in a couple of weeks, he's doing a free youth clinic at Perry. He contributes to the community, but you're going to love him. The fans are going to love him. He takes time for everyone, and he puts himself on those people's level. He never puts himself above, and he'll be a tremendous, tremendous teammate. And you're going to love him. And that's all I can really say is you'll see as he gets down there and gets involved in the community. Community's special to him. He wants to give back. And a lot of players don't do that. They want, hey, I want my NIL and this, but he wants to give back. And he's going to be involved, and fans are going to love him.
Yeah, it sounds like a Tommy Lloyd guy as far as I'm concerned. But you spoke to coaching, Koa's brother Cassius. You spoke about, Koa's dad as well. You obviously have a pretty good relationship with the Peat family. What can you tell us about just the family in general and kind of their makeup?
Oh, one of the tremendous family, one of my favorite families that I've had. I've been blessed with that family. I coached Cassius at Corona for 4 years. Andres Peat, that's with the Raiders, played basketball for us. He won our first state championship when he was a senior. Todd Jr. played. I got to watch Leilani and Maya play at Corona, girls basketball. All the family came up through our youth summer camps at Corona, and now the younger grandkids and nephews and nieces are in our youth camps at Perry. Tremendous family. Like, they let you coach. They trusted me. I'm blessed to have them. And more important than those being great athletes, great people, is just the relationship with the family. The Tucson's going to see the family, and they're loyal, and they stick together, and they're about community. They're about being good people. And Andres is running side by side in the morning. Koa's doing a basketball free camp, and Andres is doing a free football camp. So they really like to give back. And so they'll be visible, and they're just great people. So I cannot say enough about them just trusting me to coach all their sons.
And Coach, with Koa Peat coming to Arizona, Bryce James coming to Arizona, there's bound to be some people in the front row that are new faces to McHale Center, right? And you spoke to how the family is very visible and they are everywhere. I was in the building for the state championship. They were pretty much the entire courtside front row right there by themselves. And so is that something we can expect regularly at the McHale Center? Like, how big is the Peat presence going to be on campus?
I'm sure they're gonna have they'll be there, and they'll be supportive. They'll be cheering. They're loyal team people. It'll be fun to have them in the building when they all show. But they are a very close family, so get ready.
Thank you so much, Coach. We really appreciate you talking to us. He's the legendary Sam Duane Jr., two-time four-peater, 8-time state champion at Corona del Sol and at Perry High School. thank you so much for your time, and have a great weekend. Have a great rest of your Friday.
Absolutely, and go Cats.
That's what we love to hear.
Yeah. Gotta love it. You gotta love it, Kevin. Go Cats, from our guy, Sam Duane Jr., of course. If you want to throw him a follow on Twitter, I'm sure he doesn't really care too much about his Twitter following, but it is Coach Duane. That's Duane Pumas, for the Perry Pumas. But yeah, shout out Coach Duane for giving us some time on his busy Friday morning, Kevin. And yeah, it was great to get to talk to him and just kind of get some insight as to who Koa Peat the person is, who his family is, and what they're like, and just what Arizona fans could come to expect, going into next season, and probably the sole season that Koa Peat will be playing for Arizona, Kevin.
Yeah, and our guy Edgar in the chat asks, is Koa Peat the best player that he's coached in his entire career? And
it's an interesting question. I mean, obviously, I kind of asked him that, or I think actually Kevin did, but it was like he didn't want to rank his players, and that's completely understandable. He's obviously coached a lot of great players. You heard him list them off.
Jalen Williams is on one of the most historic teams of all time right now.
That's where I was going with this. I think it's fair to say, if I'm looking at his players that he's coached in high school, I think it's between Marvin Bagley and Koa Peat. I don't think Jalen Williams is close. I'm sure Jalen Williams he was phenomenal in high school, but he went to Santa Clara, right? Like he wasn't. Yeah. He was he was great at Santa Clara. I won a ton of money on him his last year there, just betting on him constantly, and I love him forever for that. But in the NBA, certainly Jalen Williams is an all-star caliber player. 21.3 points per game this year, Kevin. 5-5, and on very great efficiency on a phenomenal team, one of the best teams in the league, right? So it might be tough for Koa Peat to reach that level. Who knows? We'll see. I don't know if he'll be an NBA star or not, because it's hard to project that stuff. And, if you told me, would Stanley Johnson and Aaron Gordon be NBA stars, I would have told you DeAndre Ayton. I would have told you 1,000%, Kevin. So sometimes it's hard to project that stuff. But in high school, I think we're looking at Marvin Bagley versus Koa Peat as the two best players that he probably has coached. If we injected him with some truth serum, and yeah, Marvin Bagley was unbelievable in high school, Kevin.
He was. And honestly, he kind of referenced the idea that Koa Peat is on the Mount Rushmore for sure of players that he's coached, and maybe players in the whole entire state's history as well. Koa Peat is that level, guys. Like, I don't know what we have to tell you about his pedigree and everything that he's accomplished, but the kid's a winner at the highest level. And not only is he a winner at the highest level, he is a competitor at the highest level, and his skills are there to match that as well. So truly impressed, and couldn't be any more excited to watch him hoop in the McHale Center.
I just looked up right now, Kevin, because I was curious, Marvin Bagley's 24/7 profile, because I thought that he was the second ranked player in the class, but turns out that they actually put him, I believe, in front of DeAndre Ayton in the rankings in the final rankings.
Yeah.
Actually, wow, they dropped Ayton by the final rankings to 5. He committed to Arizona, was number 1, dropped all the way to 5 behind Marvin Bagley, Michael Porter, Mo Bamba, Colin Sexton. That was the list. I remember Michael Porter jumping him for number 1, and I remember thinking that was kind of fishy, to be honest. And I know Michael Porter could have been a problem in college, but he didn't really do all that much, if we're being completely honest. Marvin Bagley was great at Duke.
I will say, and this is a little bit of revisionist history, whatever you want. If an if was a fifth, we'd all be drunk, or whatever the saying is, Damon.
Never heard that.
Oh, really? If ifs were fifths, we'd all be drunk?
No.
Well, you learn something new every day, Damon, dog. Especially working with me. But I was
on your old man game.
I mean, hey, you know what I mean? I do my best. But I'll say this real quick. Michael Porter Jr. was a beast in high school. I mean, he was one of the best players in Missouri. I know he played in Washington as well. Like, he was kind of back and forth there. But he's one of the best players the state of Missouri's ever seen. One of the best players at his level during that time. He had that back injury that carried with him into college. Yeah. That kind of is where that germinated as well. So I don't doubt that Michael Porter Jr. was up there. He could have played with anybody at that time. I'm
sure he could have been cold.
He would have taken Mizzou very far, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I understand that one. I think putting DeAndre Ayton behind Colin Sexton and Mo Bamba is crazy, but Marvin Bagley and Michael Porter were problems in high school, and Marvin Bagley in particular. Like, I'll be honest, I was very, very wrong about him in the league. I thought Marvin Bagley was going to be really good, Kevin. But that's a little off topic. Let's get back on topic. Let's talk about Henri Veesaar. Some news coming out about Henri Veesaar. I wonder if Chase is still here in the chat or if he took off. But this is the Henri Veesaar segment of the day. He gets a crystal ball from 24/7 Sports. I'm presuming it's their UNC writer that put it in, Kevin.
I believe it was Travis Branham. Is the
even
name,
bigger
is the name I heard from our guys over at Locked On Tar Heels. I saw that on Twitter that I think it was Travis Branham that did this, but I could be wrong. Damon is checking us. But as you see here, Henri Veesaar, Arizona transfer, has been giving a 100% crystal ball to UNC, Damon Dog, and yeah, this is unfortunate, but it's been talked about, at length, that it seemed like with the DNC that he was UNC bound, and if not, that it would either be, that or maybe a very unlikely return to Arizona. Damon and I were holding out faith that a return was possible, but this makes it seem as like a return is not likely at all. But yeah, this is the situation, right? UNC needs Henri Veesaar. UNC cannot miss out on Henri Veesaar. He is likely the best big man in the portal. Yaxel Landeborg is probably going to go to the league. He's going to be a lottery pick, I believe. So that's not a big that's really realistically you can get in the transfer portal. I think Henri Veesaar is the best guy available. Clearly focused in on UNC right now. And like I said, UNC needs Henri Veesaar. They have, I think, another guy coming in, a guard, I believe. And yeah, Damon, like I said, UNC needs Henri Veesaar like they need air to breathe. Arizona, unfortunately, did not need Henri Veesaar in this. It would have been a huge luxury to have Henri Veesaar. But
how much do you think that plays into it? I know we're not speaking from a place of like intel on this, but and this is totally speculation. But the part of Arizona not necessarily needing Henri Veesaar, the point that you were, I guess
I meant like, do you think like if you were asking me how much I think UNC needing him played into it, I guess it's the same question.
It's the same
question. But I think it played a huge role in this, because I think if you're UNC, you are willing to, quote unquote, I don't know if this is the case, but you're more willing to, quote unquote, break the bank for a guy like Henri Veesaar because you need that, right? And I think if you're Arizona, you're looking around at your front court thinking Koa Peat, Tobe Awaka, Matias Krivas, however you feel about him. Tommy Lloyd feels very positively, and that's what matters most. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're looking at Carter Bryant, a potential return there. You have a loaded talent front court. You have a talent loaded front court is what you got.
Yeah.
So if you're Arizona, it doesn't really make sense to put yourself, whether it, again, we're not speaking from a place of knowledge, but it doesn't really make sense for you to tighten your purse strings over Henri Veesaar when you could put that money towards securing Braden Burries, locking that down. For example. So I think it played a huge role. I think UNC needing Henri Veesaar, UNC and Hubert Davis needing to make a big splash to get UNC fans kind of back on track here, it seems.
Mm-hmm.
I think that played a huge role in this, Damon.
Yeah, it certainly seems like it would, right? And I think that's from Henry's perspective. We've talked a lot, Kevin, about, is this the right move for him? Because UNC isn't putting players in the league, and Tommy Lloyd is developing players as draft stock and helping it consistently, right? So, we've had somewhat of a back and forth, Kevin, in terms of like, is this the smart long-term decision for Veesaar leaving Arizona and leaving Tommy Lloyd, who's been so good with big men? But obviously that you also got to factor in the side of like, will it help Henri Veesaar's standing with NBA draft people and scouts and whatnot if he plays 30 plus minutes a game versus playing 20 minutes a game, right? And that's probably what Tommy Lloyd had outlined for him going into next season, just given the amount of mouths that need to be fed in the front court that are already on this team. So yeah, I think that certainly played a factor. I'm sure money was probably the biggest factor in it, and it seems as though Henry's agent has been talking to North Carolina for quite a while, but also part of that is North Carolina had a glaring hole in their front court. And so with them being, one of the, best programs on the Mount Rushmore of college basketball programs, they kind of have their pick of the litter of sorts. And with such a massive hole to fill, they can go get the top guy on the market and just get the deal done. Right. So it sucks to lose a Henri Veesaar. It seems like we're headed in that direction, Kevin, obviously. he hasn't announced officially, but if a guy like Travis Branham, who is the top basketball analyst nationally for 24/7 Sports, puts it in, I think you got to take it very seriously. And it does seem as though it's going to be a Henri Veesaar-less Arizona next season. But hopefully Tobe Awaka can stay. I think we're pretty confident Mo Krivas is going to stick around, and you still have a decent center rotation, even if it maybe isn't as high of expectations as some of us, myself included. And I know that there are other people that feel differently, but some of us, maybe are a little bit lower on this current version of the front court than what we maybe projected that Arizona was going to have.
Yeah, and when you talk about the loss of Henri Veesaar, you know what I mean? I think about the versatility that he brings, Damon, right? And I think Arizona loses a lot of multi-dimensional offense, right? For example, like you and I were talking about this in the front court conversation, right? That context of you lose Henri Veesaar, who can supplant what he brings? And part of what he brings is a three-dimensional threat, right? He can take you to the hoop a little bit. I mean, obviously there was a strength thing that maybe needed to be worked out, fill out a little bit, but he can put it on the floor. He has a little bit of post moves, but most importantly, he has that verticality factor, right, Damon? I think you lose that going from Veesaar to Krivas. You do lose that lob threat that you get in a pick and roll, or the slip threat that you get in a pick and roll because he is so mobile. Nick, reading our minds in the chat, says we lose the pick and roll lob threat.
Yeah.
And that's totally true.
You lose your best pick and roll big for sure.
You definitely do. And I think that this is a spot where Koa Peat can really help you if you're Arizona. His athleticism mixed with his size can give you a lob threat off the pick and roll. And not only that, he could probably be a pick and roll ball handler at times well.
I was just about to cut you off, Kevin, and say, you just got me sad thinking about a Koa Peat Henri Veesaar pick and roll and how unstoppable that. Bro, Cooper Flag to Malawak, move aside. There's a new sheriff in town.
We got a West Coast version.
It's called Koa Peat to Henri Veesaar, and I am heartbroken that I don't get to see that happen in terms of a big ball handler passing to a guy who can just get up there like Henry. But continue.
Well, I guess if we're going to be on that topic, Damon, I'm going to make you a little bit extra sad talking about this because I've mentioned it ad nauseum at points this season because of how much I love the idea. But Tommy Lloyd would experiment with a high-low passing game between Tobe Awaka and Henri Veesaar all the time towards the end of the season.
Yeah.
Could you imagine that with Koa Peat instead of Tobe Awaka? I'm not saying that Tobe shouldn't be on the team, but I'm saying utilize within that context on the court of the high-low. It'd be much better with a guy like Koa Peat who can really put it on the ground, make the defender think about what's going down. So, yeah, it's a huge loss in versatility. I think Koa Peat helps supplant that if you're Arizona and does give you a little bit more mobility, a lot more mobility, and athleticism from the front court position that you are certainly losing with Henri Veesaar. And I thought about my Boston Celtics and how important the versatility was there when we had Robert Williams, because if you can run a pick and roll and just throw it up to the rim, know you're big, might be able to just locate it and slam it home.
Yeah.
That is huge, not only for the offensive confidence, but also it's huge from a defender's point of view, because now you have to worry about multiple different things. The pass could be going up, the pass could be going through. There's a lot that you lose with a guy like Henri Veesaar, but it's not irreplaceable if you can put it within a scheme and you can replace him with guys like a Koa Peat, or if they get like a transfer wing. Tyrone Riley is quite bouncy and an athlete in his own right. Now, he's not exactly a big, but I do think he'd be playing that like 3 small lineup 4 kind of position.
Do you think Tyrone Riley is a Carter Bryant replacement?
Gross.
I just thought of that right now.
I've thought about that before, Damon.
That feels pretty. That feels like a pretty 1-to-1 comparison. No.
Oh no, yeah. Yeah, I didn't really want to think about it, but when I was doing my Tyrone Riley the 4th research, like he sounds like Carter Bryant when he talks. And like the way he talks about, he's just so mature. I'll say that.
Yeah.
He's very mature in his approach to the game. His father's taught him a lot about talent always beats out politics within the course of basketball, folks. Relax. But yeah, like man, that was one of my thoughts, is that his skill set is kind of like with all due respect to him, a diet version of Carter Bryant.
Yeah.
And yes, that was my first inclination, was to think that is a replacement for Carter Bryant if he were to go. But I also think it's a complimentary guy. Like if you bring in Tyrone Riley the 4th and you keep Carter Bryant,
Yeah, they could play together.
they could play together.
For
But
sure.
Tyrone Riley could also give you that bench scoring, the bench production that you might need. I've been saying all offseason that Arizona losing Henri Veesaar, KJ Lewis, and regardless of Carter Bryant returning or going, you're losing that bench scoring because he's not going to return to go back to the bench.
Facts.
So you need to replace the bench production that you had last season. It was a huge reason why Arizona won so many games. Was when the other team went to their bench and Arizona went to their bench. Arizona's bench won out almost 99% of the time, Damon. So
KJ Lewis, Henri Veesaar, and Carter Bryant on your bench is pretty
it's
insane.
nasty, right? But you lose Henri Veesaar to the transfer portal. You lose KJ Lewis to the transfer portal. You might keep Carter Bryant, but he's going to go to the starting lineup. You might lose Carter Bryant completely to the NBA draft. So you're going to have to supplant that regardless of if Carter Bryant comes back or not. So I think Tyrone Riley, who we have here, his list from Dushan London, has quickly expanded from, I believe it was Arizona, Creighton, and Texas at first, I believe. And now it has expanded to UNC, Kentucky, Washington, Arkansas, Grand Canyon. He's also been in contact with Miami, Arizona State, and Ohio State. He's clearly trying to find his market, Damon, and see what is out there for him. I don't blame him for doing that. Arizona was one of the first 3 teams in contact with him, so you must believe that, they are still strong suitors in this race for Tyrone Riley. But yeah, that is interesting that his list has expanded. It doesn't seem like it's shrinking anytime soon. Again, I don't blame him for checking the market. But yeah, Arizona's still yet to secure the transfer of Tyrone Riley. Either way, I think it's a good player to have on your team. Every player or every team should want a player like Tyrone Riley, Damon. But I sure as hell hope it's not a Carter Bryant replacement, man.
Yeah, I do think that maybe he could fit that role, but you're right, absolutely, in saying that, like, also I think you would expect Carter to do more with the ball in his hands coming back for an extra season, so that role changes for Carter a little bit. But in terms of what Carter did last season, I think Tyrone Riley fits that almost to a T. Just watching his highlights, it's very Carter Bryant-esque. It's like, kind of, he's a very efficient 3-point shooter, Kevin. He's got a lot of length. Kind of skinny. You could tell he can add something to his frame a little bit. There's some big shot blocks in there on his highlight tape, which is very reminiscent of Carter Bryant, right? So I think you're looking at an extremely similar profile to what Carter did last year. But if Carter was to come back, you would need him to kind of take on more of some of the ball in his hands, playmaking chops next season and see development in that facet. But I do want to hit some of these comments that we have here in the chat. Chase asks, is Henri a good shot blocker? I would say, yes, he is a good shot blocker, but he has a lot of room for improvement in that regard as well. I think that's where, I personally am such a big fan of Henri Veesaar's game. Like, I think he has such a high ceiling. This is really the first time he's gotten extended playing time this season. And Kevin, I felt like, he was blocking shots semi-consistently, but I wouldn't be shocked if he, was all of a sudden blocking like 2-3 shots a game next season at North Carolina.
Yeah, I think the way Chase worded that question is very apt. Like, Henri Veesaar is a good shot blocker. Like, I wouldn't say he's below average. I wouldn't say he's average. I wouldn't say he's elite. I would say he's good with the potential to be an elite rim protector.
For sure.
If he can figure it out. I would say Henri Veesaar, and I'm not saying he's raw, like super raw. Like, he obviously showed flashes of being ready for everyday huge minutes kind of role. But he kind of looked like Bambi legs out there at times a little bit.
Yeah.
In a way where you're like, oh, that guy's super talented. He's just still trying to figure out how to put all his talents together. And I think once Henri Veesaar does that, you're talking about, like, and no disrespect, but especially in the ACC, and I don't know what the recruiting class coming in for the ACC looks like, but like he's a conference player of the year potential kind of guy. Like, I'm not saying he has to be that next year. I'm not saying he's there right now, but if he continues to work, continues to grind, his ceiling, Chase, is that caliber of player. In my opinion. I don't know how Damon feels, but
yeah, no, certainly. You had a tweet about him being a potential Big 12 Player of the Year candidate. I think that might be a stretch, but I definitely think that he is an all-conference first-team player.
yes,
I think that he will step in and be an ACC first-team all-conference player next season. I think he would have done it in the Big 12 as well. And I think his ceiling is extremely high. That's a profile of player, and you see the growth, right? You've seen him go from being basically unplayable to being dominant at times on the court. And so that's got to encourage you, just that, like, you see those flashes. You just got to round that into form. Is Hubert Davis that guy? I don't know, but we'll see.
You'll find out.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, we're looking here, some more of these comments. Nick says he's Koloko light. I could see it to an extent. I do think Koloko, like, as far as college rim protectors go, is elite. like top of the line level. So I understand what you're saying, but it's also a tough comparison. Desert Man had a comment, not that one, but if you scroll up, he said he thinks the loss of Henri is huge. Krivas is not a mobile big man, and I think that shows on defense. Yeah, so
Agreed.
I did want to hit this, and I tweeted it the other day in a weird way and got lectured for it, Kevin. But when it comes to Krivas and the worries that we may have on defense with Henri and Krivas basically being a like for like trade, essentially, of what the two big men this season, right? Because Krivas didn't play for most of the year and Henri did. You're obviously getting a drop off in defense there. You're hoping for an uptick in half court offense and the ability to put the ball in the basket. We've talked about that pick and roll game, but the defense is concerning because Krivas is I don't want to call him like flat footed or slow or anything. He's a huge guy.
Massive.
I think he's pretty light on his feet for how big he is, Kevin. But that being said, he's definitely doesn't have the mobility of a Henri Veesaar. And yeah, you're right. That does hurt your ability to switch on a guy here and there and whatnot. So I think that this just exasperates.
I try that we'll say magnifies for now. You want to continue? I'll look that up.
Exasperate.
Can we get a definition on that?
Yes.
Can you use it in a sentence?
Intensely irritated and frustrated. That's exasperated.
Like exasperation. See, chat, you do learn something new every day.
Yes.
You learned 2 new things in the show today, chat. You're welcome.
Yeah, so it's that's a different word. Exacerbate. I mean, what a weird and difficult word to say.
Okay.
But make a problem worse.
Yes.
So yes, that
exacerbate.
No T. Try it again.
Exacerbate.
That's where the no T is hard.
I'll figure it out after the show. Exacerbate.
It's really weird. But
yeah, we'll figure it out after the show.
We will. We'll get back to you guys on that. But I think it just presses the issue even more so about bringing Tobe Awaka back next season is where I was going with that. Like Tobe Awaka is a necessity for me bringing him back now because I think Krivas is somewhat of a wild card of how he can play in the Big 12, and he's gonna have to play no matter what. That's a fact. Thank you, Mother. My mom is very, very good at words, and it's kind of her forte.
Very good at words.
Well, she's a lawyer.
I mean, you have to.
That's her thing.
Have to be good with words. All that legalese. My word.
I'll text a word with a typo, and she'll send back an asterisk with the correct spelling of the word. But yes, I think you need Tobe Awaka back next season because without Tobe Awaka, you're leaving it up to chance that Mo Krivas has to be good, right? We know what Tobe Awaka's floor is. Maybe his ceiling isn't as high as a guy like Henri Veesaar or even a Mo Krivas, right? But Tobe Awaka can switch. He can rebound at an elite level. I looked up his per 40 minutes rebounding the other day, Kevin. Over 16 per game, which is absolutely insane. He only played about 20 minutes per game this season and averaged close to 9. But yeah, I mean, you're looking with Tobe Awaka. I just think that you need that guy back. You need that presence back, Kevin, because if Krivas is getting roasted in the Big 12 by a guy who's built like a Jawan Roberts, I know he won't be back for his 8th season at Houston next year.
What a damn shame.
I know, but if some guy is just cooking Mo Krivas off the dribble, right, in a man situation, you need to throw Tobe Awaka back in the game and settle things down. And so that's where I think that profile of player is so important. And I don't want to go through the process and the wild card of bringing in a different transfer to replace that role, Kevin. I want the guy where I know what I'm going to get night in and night out, and that's elite rebounding, good defense, and sometimes the ability to put the ball in the hoop when you need him to.
Yeah, and people in the chat are kind of talking about the difference between the Big 12 and the ACC. Jay talking about Big 12 being more of a stretch. The big guys didn't really bang. Most could stretch the floor. ACC is more of a banging in the post, back to the basket. Nick talking about how the Big 12 tested Henri Veesaar's physicality, even if it wasn't in the traditional post, back to the post kind of style. And I think that is true. The type of players that Henri Veesaar was going up against, you have to be physically strong to go up against those kind of players. And there were times where Henri Veesaar what's the right wording I'm looking for here?
Before you get into that, I want to thank our people watching with our streaming partners. Head on over to gophnx.com. We're going to continue this conversation, but keep going, Kevin.
And where are we going to continue it?
In overtime.
We're in overtime now. You know what I mean, Damon?
Where's our thing?
I don't know. Where's our thing? Is this our thing? No thing to be seen today, Damon.
Okay.
But yeah, we are in overtime officially, folks. And I wanted to, we were talking
Pretty
about.
sure the thing is like the only important portion of that.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I agree with you. I don't, sometimes things happen. I don't know what happened there, Damon. But with Henri Veesaar and his physicality is what we were talking about. And I think even if it is a back to the basket league in the way that Jay is saying, I think Henri Veesaar could still succeed in that league, because if you're a back to the basket big, guarding Henri Veesaar could actually be difficult, because he could take you out to the perimeter, have the ball, pass the ball, set a screen, slip, and now you're behind on the play. Like, I think Henri Veesaar's athleticism, his quickness can still benefit him in a league that's a little more traditional back to the basket kind of a style. And again, I'll reiterate, like, Henri Veesaar knows what it's like to play physically. Like, Henri Veesaar knows what it's like to bang down low with the bigs. And I think that he was tested this year in the Big 12, and I think that'll show next year in the ACC.
Yeah. Sarah Schlegel says, how does Duane Aristode fit in? And honestly, that is a great point. We're going to, you know what, Kevin, let's dive into that further in future episodes and future content that we do here on PHNX Sports and on AZ Wildcats pod, because Duane Aristode, I think, is one of the most under-heralded.
He's like barely being talked about.
Like recruits, maybe, that I can remember in recent history. And he's an extremely highly rated guy. I think that he fits in off the bench in his first season, similar to how a Carter Bryant did. I don't quite think that maybe he's the caliber of a Carter Bryant, maybe just like one step below that. We'll end up finding that out. But I see him as kind of the 6th, 7th man of next season's team, and then becoming a starter in his sophomore year. I think that's the role that I would designate for a Duane Aristode. I know we talked about Tyrone Riley. Would he take that Carter Bryant role? But
it could be Duane Aristode.
I think it could be Duane Aristode as well. I think that definitely makes sense there. And yeah.
I'll tease it a little bit by, I think what intrigued Arizona so much about Duane Aristode was the way he fits in off the ball. Like, when you watch Duane Aristode highlights, it's a lot of spot up shooting. Mm-hmm. It's a lot of transition buckets, which both of those things Arizona does a lot in their offense. He's good off a dribble handoff on the perimeter as well. And he's an athlete, right? With a nice jumper on him. And I think those are the kind of tools that Arizona is looking for. Like, can you move off the ball? Can you be a spot up shooter? We know Arizona lacked shooting last season. I think Duane Aristode has a nice jumper on him. I'm not trying to say he's Steph Curry, but he can definitely shoot the rock, especially from a catch and shoot spot up situation. So yeah, I think from an offensive perspective, Duane Aristode can kind of do everything you need a wing to do. And I think that's why Arizona is so in on him. And also why he is a little underrated in this recruiting class with Bryce James, the huge name that he is, Koa Peat, we've talked about his accolades at length already. You know who Koa Peat is, right? So it makes sense to an extent as to why Duane Aristode has been like the forgotten child in all of this, right? But don't sleep on him, because he is a real talent that Arizona has acquired that could contribute to winning as soon as next season. I like him in that, like you said, that like 7-8 man kind of a role. And yeah, if he is, that could be another reason, as you alluded to it, as to why Arizona has not been so in and active in the transfer portal, because maybe they believe that Duane Aristode could be that 7 guy off the bench that could give you that scoring that you're looking for.
Yeah, certainly. And on top of that, I think you're also, as Desert Man puts here, you're also looking for another backup big here. When you factor in Emmanuel Stevens, and I know that Emmanuel Steven, I should say, I know that he, was supposed to redshirt this season under Tommy Lloyd. But also, he was the 4th guy in the pecking order before Mo Krivas got hurt. Now you're looking at potentially Emmanuel Steven as, he could have brought up that role as a 3rd guy. But yeah, you need that more developmental big that Christian Coloco had the role of at one point. And certainly, it's a big role that needs to be filled on this roster. So yeah, I'm with you on that, Desert Man. And that was what was weird about seeing Emmanuel Steven leave, is that, it felt like there was more of a role for him next season. And it did seem like, he wanted to contribute to the team. That's why he burned his red shirt. But maybe he wanted an even bigger role than that and didn't want to stick around until his upperclassman years, Kevin. before he was, became, more of a prominent role on this roster. But yes, I think that developmental young big that's going to stick for a couple years, like a Henri Veesaar too. I think that's an important role to have on this team, and you need that third guy in case, one or two of your guys are in foul trouble, which we see often in college basketball.
Damon, I have breaking news for you. It is not good news, but I do have breaking news.
Okay.
Also not surprising news. Henri Veesaar to UNC has just become official as of like 10 minutes ago. Our guy, Shane Deef, helped me out with that one. That's what I was looking off to the ghost talking about over here. But yeah, Henri Veesaar to UNC is official. He showed me the ESPN notification there. So that is no longer conjecture. That is no longer crystal ball talk. That is official, signed, sealed, delivered. Henri Veesaar to UNC. Chase, congratulations.
Congratulations, Chase. Someone up here in the chat also asked, like, what is he going to do? He's dating Jasmine Pierce-Chico, who obviously played for the Arizona softball team. If you listen to the Arizona or the North Carolina 24/7 boards, Inside Carolina, shout them out. A random user on there said that he saw them back on the plane, Kevin, from their visit in Carolina, that she was with him and was looking up apartments on the flight home. So I believe that we're looking at, potentially Jasmine Pierce-Chico no longer being on the staff at Arizona on the softball staff, joining the North Carolina staff, but we will find that out and see how that whole situation plays out. But yes, Kevin, it is a big loss. Don't want to understate that. I think I'm one of the biggest Henri Veesaar fans in this fan base, and I think that maybe I'm taking it a little harder than some people are, even because they believe in Krivas a little bit more than I do. But Arizona will be fine. We will be fine. They're Krivas, regardless of whether or not I think he's going to have a super high ceiling in terms of what Arizona can do in the final, making a Final Four. I still think he's a good player overall. And I think Tobe Awaka is a good player too. So you just need both those guys back. And if that's the weakest position on your team, Kevin, you're in really good shape. And I think that if you look at the projected lineup and hopefully Carter Bryant coming back and Braden Burry's in the fold, you're potentially looking at, that being the case, right? That 5 spot being the weakest position in your rotation. And if that's the weakest in your rotation with those guys, I feel very comfortable with that.
I agree with you, Damon, and I'm right there with you. I'm also taking the Henri Veesaar transfer pretty hard. You and I loved rooting for Henry the Hammer all year. Our guy AZ Cats G coined the greatest nickname in Veesaar history with Henry the Hammer. So it's unfortunate that we can't celebrate more of those next season.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, you're right about the positional strength and weaknesses of the team and how that is honestly an indication of program health in a way that you don't really have to necessarily worry about the loss of the best big in the portal.
Yeah.
Which is kind of insane. And I think that you and I probably haven't talked on that enough. But yeah, Arizona, if you feel like you can lose Henri Veesaar, you're in a great spot. And regardless of how we feel about Krivas, Tommy Lloyd believes in the kid, and Tommy Lloyd is not often wrong. He's not perfect, but he is not often wrong. And yeah, Desert Man here says he's not high on Krivas. I think he's a liability on defense. Barbecue chicken, Ernie. And yeah, I mean, we'll yet to be proven what development has been seen. He didn't even get the chance to play in conference last year because that's what Henri Veesaar took off when he was given he got a couple games under his belt, started to figure it out. It took Tobe Awaka how many games? 10 games to really ease into the system. Trey Townsend didn't wake up until March. I say in jest, but no, yeah, I think I still think there's room for optimism with Krivas, even though I am also like Desert Man, worried about what his ceiling is as a player and can he improve? He hasn't played basketball in I don't know how long because of that foot injury. I don't know. I think I saw a photo of him on Carter Bryant's Instagram story at a rec run. So maybe he's back to basketball stuff. I don't know what his health status is, but yeah, worried about the front court. But there's enough talent in the front court, to where I think he'll be fine.
And Jay put up here in the chat, and someone else was up there talking about it as well. But they were talking about kind of Krivas's somewhat inability to dunk the basketball at times. Yeah, it's Nick and Jay were talking about it. He's 7'2", and it seems like he likes to lay everything up. He never dunks on people's heads, and that's what Henri Veesaar brought to the table. As Kevin was talking about, that verticality aspect, he was trying to put it on someone's head every single time he was flying to the basket. And that was what made Henri Veesaar so effective, right? Because people were scared of him. He was a bully out there. And he was relentless with it as well. And so you lose that aspect a little bit. And I think you need to have Krivas toughen up and get a little bit meaner, Kevin. Like I'll honestly, he does, now that like that's kind of been put into my head, he does feel like he tries to be a little bit too nice out there. You know what I mean? Like, oh, I'm big. I'll just back you down and lay
Some
it
finesse.
in.
Too much finesse.
No, hit him under the basket. Put your shoulder into
What
him.
do you got to do, Damon?
Slam them under the basket, and then two-hand Shaq style dunk over them. Put both of your legs between them, and then when you get down, shove them onto the floor afterwards. That's what I want to see.
I need that first game against like Wofford or something.
Have you seen that highlight of Shaq doing that
of
to
course,
the Knicks player?
Of course,
it's like my favorite highlight of any basketball player ever.
It's to Ewing.
It wasn't to Ewing. It was a white guy.
No, it wasn't. I think he dunked on Ewing, but I think the other guy he threw the ball at. Was that the same play?
It was the white guy.
But was that the same play though, where they threw the ball after?
Yes.
Okay, so I thought that was two different plays. Was my point. Okay, same play.
Yes, he dunked on him like that, and then the white guy grabbed the ball and instead of inbounding it, chucked it at the back of Shaq's head. But
That's what it was.
Unbelievable moment, and I need more of that with Mo Krivas. I agree, Mia. It is sad, but at least we have Tobe. We need to keep Tobe. That is a need. Need to.
This far into the transfer portal, for him not to be in the portal is a great sign, and it's likely that he stays. So that's good.
Well, Kevin, it was good that happened during the show.
Finally.
Yeah,
it was close.
Now we can finally.
He almost did it to us again.
Kind of move on and hopefully plan around the people that want to be here and want to be in Tucson and on this roster. I don't want to talk too much more about it because we already kind of hit it. But do you think Arizona is very much in the mix for Tyrone Riley? I know he expanded that list, and let's go ahead and take a look at that list one more time, Kevin. Just a who's who of schools on here, including Grand Canyon, all the big time programs, right? And yeah, I mean, but I do think it helps that Arizona got in on this early. It was one of the first three schools, as you said, with Creighton in Texas, that was in the Zoom interviews with him, Zoom meetings. And yeah, it seems like a Tommy Lloyd type of player, a guy that you invest in and want to be at the school for a few years here. And yeah, I hope Tyrone Riley is someone that, sees what Tommy Lloyd can do for a player that has all the tools and just needs a little bit of shaping out to his game.
Yeah, and Desert Man says here in the chat, and I will get to your question you actually asked me in a second, but I'm going to round into that by answering the probability of Carter Bryant returning. I honestly, again, not speaking from a place of knowledge on this, but if just a vibes check, Desert Man, I feel like it's like 75% he stays, quite honest with you. Like, I think 3/4 he stays, and then there's that 1/4 chance that he goes through the draft process and gets intoxicated by all the resources the NBA can offer and all that kind of stuff. But if he's not being told that he's going to go in the top 15, he should not go. That's my personal opinion, because they're not going to pour into you if you're not a lottery pick. They're not going to set aside a time for your development and have a timeline for your development if you're not a lottery pick. You're just going to be a tangential, supplemental rookie. Maybe you're bouncing back and forth between G League and whatever. They're not going to invest time into you if you're not going in the top 15 the way they would if you're in the lottery. So I think if Carter Bryant is being told you're going to go in that 19 to 25 range, in my opinion, he should return. But if he's being told there's a chance you go 14, 13, 15, I think he's likely to go. So I think right now it's 75-25 that he stays versus going to the NBA. And if he does go to the NBA, I think it increases the chances that you see Tyrone Riley on an Arizona roster next season. If he doesn't go to the NBA, I think there's a chance that Tyrone Riley just wants more run at a team like a Washington or something like that. Take that next step up from San Francisco. But I think either way, the chances that Arizona gets Tyrone Riley the 4th is pretty decent. Like there's a hole in the roster he can fill. And excuse me, damn. I think that it's possible that Tyrone Riley is going to be in an Arizona uniform regardless, but it's even more likely if Carter Bryant goes to the NBA.
Yeah, certainly. I think that's a good way of putting it. And it's one of those situations where, you want everybody, right? But it's sometimes not always realistic because roles have to be designated to certain people. Armando puts here save ADO. And you had a tweet actually last night, Kevin, about Anthony Del Orso and thinking that he was going to be sick next season. So just kind of take us into your world. How do you feel about the prospects of Del Orso coming back potentially.
Okay, ADO had a lot of flaws last season.
This is coming from a guy who was like
number one. Like I'm I'm looking for reasons to critique ADO. You know what I mean? I'm not saying I don't think he's a bad guy, but like from a basketball perspective, I was watching a lot of games like waiting for ADO mistakes. You know what I mean? But I will say, I think with a season of putting on more mass, a season of more defensive stuff, like defensive improvement as well, ADO could be awesome, especially in a reduced role. We're not going to be seeing no ADO starter minutes next year, you know, not barring anything new happening or dramatic something happening. ADO won't be starting next season. He'll be in that 6, 7, 8 man role, right? And I think a guy like ADO playing 6, 7, 8 man minutes is right where he should be for an Arizona. You need his shooting off the bench. You don't need it to start the game, to be quite honest with you. And I think, again, another year in Tommy's system, another year of strength and development at the Big 12 level. I think ADO could be, I'm not going to get dramatic, but I'll say like 25% better on defense next season. And that might be all you need in the limited run that he'll have. And so I think ADO could be awesome next year in that 6, 7, 8 man role with a little bit more strength and conditioning, with a little bit more defensive fundamentals, you know, drilled into him over the offseason by the coaching staff. I'm confident in ADO coming into this year. And I think it's in part due to his reduced role, but also already having the familiarity of playing 1 year under Tommy Lloyd.
If Anthony Del Orso comes back and wants to be like the 8th man of this team, which he kind of was to an extent this season, right? Like, you know,
when it came down to the winning time.
Yeah, even though he was in the starting lineup, there were games where he's getting 5 minutes a game because Tommy doesn't deem him super playable in that game. You know, I'm comfortable with that. Like, he's a guy where at least you know that, you know, he brings shooting and he brings intensity and he can fire up a crowd, right? So I'm cool with that, you know, as long as he's comfortable with that role and it's, you know, someone that, you know, won't bring really any problems to the table. But at the same time, you could argue that, you know, this is someone that you maybe want to improve upon, right? And maybe this is the guy that Tyrone Riley would take his role, right? Like maybe this is the kind of the wing shooter role that, you know, Carter Bryant goes in the starting lineup. He takes Trey Townsend's starting spot, and all of a sudden Tyrone Riley is the you know, Carter Bryant / Anthony Del Orso role, right? So yeah, I mean, I definitely believe that you know, this is a situation where, you know, Anthony, you take Anthony Del Orso back, but if he doesn't come back, not the end of the world either. Replaceable guy, you can find someone like that in the portal. Absolutely. It's not as if it's like a Henri Veesaar unicorn type situation where you're not really going to find a profile like that out there. But that's going to do it for us today, Kevin. We gave you a little roster breakdown, a little inside look at Koa Peat and who the man is behind the cape, I guess, if you will. And hopefully he brings said cape and mask to Arizona next season and leads us to a Final Four. As we so desperately need and hope and dream of, Kevin. But he is Kevin Thomas. You can follow him at KevoPost. That's KEVOPOSTS. I am Damon Dog. You can follow me at Damon DAWG. I'm Damon Fairall, but yeah, my ad is Damon Dog. You can follow us at PHNX_Wildcats. This, of course, is the AZ Wildcats podcast. Follow our main account at PHNX_sports. Shout out everybody who was in the chat today. We appreciate all of you guys. It was great to have the crew here. This is the portion of the show where we all do our blood ritual. But yes, thank you for joining us. We will catch you on a Monday edition of the AZ Wildcats pod. We'll be back at 12 p.m. then, hopefully with some fun new guests and whatnot like we had this week, next week as well. But until next time, peace, bear down.
Go Cats. Thank you, Coach Duane.
We all silly like the mayor.